I was drugged by my closest brother's own hands and sent to the bed of his best friend, Song Zhaoyi. After a night of absurdity, he was forced to marry me, yet his eyes held nothing but disgust, and his beloved, Lin Shuyi, became my sister-in-law. I naively believed that feelings would grow with time. But in the second year of marriage, Lin Shuyi died of a broken heart, and the entire Jing family was slaughtered. Song Zhaoyi suddenly treated me with the utmost tenderness, and I stupidly thought he finally saw my heart. Until that arrow pierced my chest. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to that night. I was drugged. I snapped my eyes open, the pain of being pierced by the arrow still lingering in my body. But the next second, waves of burning heat surged to my heart. I pulled out my silver hairpin and stabbed my thigh, the intense pain momentarily sobering me up. I pushed open the window and climbed out. I circled to the side, and sure enough, saw my brother's personal maid, Xiao Yao, hiding behind a pillar and secretly observing this way. I quietly walked up behind Xiao Yao and knocked her out cold with a vase I just grabbed. I dragged her into the room, stripped off her clothes, and put them on myself. Then I stuffed my brother's jade pendant into Xiao Yao's bosom. "Brother, enjoy the big gift your sister has prepared for you." In my previous life, I was drugged by my closest brother, Zhang Helen, and sent to the bed of his best friend, Song Zhaoye, a night of absurdity. Song Zhaoye was forced to marry me, but he hated me to the bone. But his beloved Lin Shuyi became my sister-in-law. I thought love would grow with time. In the second year of marriage, Lin Shuyi died of a broken heart. In less than half a year, the Jiang family was wiped out overnight. And when he achieved fame and success, I was pierced through the heart by his arrow. Waking up again, I was back to the time when all the tragedies began. I climbed over the wall to leave the mansion in search of Nanfeng Pavilion, but instead stumbled into Yanyu Pavilion, the largest brothel in Jinling. "Miss, you've come to the wrong place," a languid voice rang out from above. I looked up to meet a pair of smiling peach blossom eyes, Jinling's biggest playboy, Qin Shu's. In my past life, I hated him the most, bar none, but at this moment he actually looked so dashing. "I didn't make a mistake. You are the one I found." I yanked him by the collar and planted a kiss on him. When the golden wind and jade dew meet, they surpass countless joys in the mortal world. Before dawn, I hurriedly hitched up my skirt and made a run for it. Little did I know, my begonia earrings were left on the bed. When I climbed over the wall back to my residence, the morning dew had not yet dried. A few wet footprints were left on the moss in the desolate west garden, quickly dried by the morning sun. Pushing open the bedroom door, Chungshu threw herself at me, her eyes red and swollen. "Miss, where did you go last night?" I was scared to death. Looking at Haruyuki's tender face, I was dazed for a moment. In my past life, Song Zhaoyi took in a concubine who looked just like Lin Shuyi, and he doted on her in every possible way. Later, the concubine framed me for causing her miscarriage. Song Zhaoyi wouldn't listen to my explanation at all. He just condemned me straight away. It was Chungshu who stood up to take the blame for me. Before she died, she cried just like this. "Miss, live on well. Leave the Song Manor. Chungshu." I gently wiped away her tears, my fingertips touching her warm cheek. "In this life, I will definitely keep you safe." The little maid was stunned. "Help me remove my makeup." I changed the subject, yawning. That bastard Qin Shuja insisted on arguing with me last night, leaving me with a sore back and weak legs. "Does anyone else in the manor know I wasn't here last night?" Chungshu shook her head. "I didn't dare make a fuss, so I just searched secretly by myself." Her gaze swept over the red marks on my neck, and she tactfully lowered her eyes. "Huh? What is wrong?" I looked at Chungshu. "Miss, one of your earrings is missing." I didn't really care. It probably dropped somewhere. As the hot water washed over my body, I let out a soft hiss. I didn't expect that playboy Qin Shu's to have such a good body. It is a pity. At 3/4 past the hour of the dragon, When a commotion came from the north courtyard, I was painting my eyebrows in the mirror. Miss, the north courtyard. Chongshu ran in a panic. I took my time putting down the eyebrow pencil, my fingertips lightly stroking that red mark under the silk scarf at my neck. No rush. Let the fire burn a bit hotter. In my past life at this time, I was waking up disheveled from Song Zhaoyi's bed, facing a room full of scornful gazes. But today, let's go. It is time to watch the big show I've prepared for my brother. Servants crowded in front of the north courtyard's main house. I appeared right on time just to see Zhang Helen grabbing Song Zhaoyi by the collar and roaring, "You dare touch my sister! How can you face Shouyi?" My steps paused, and my fingernails dug deep into my palms. Me, good brother. Even at a time like this, the one he is thinking about is still his Lin Shouyi. Pushing open the door, the room was in shambles. Song Zhaoyi sat sullenly by the bed, his inner shirt wide open, revealing a strong chest, and the one sobbing with her head down on the bed was none other than Shou Yao, wearing my dress. "Brother, what are you guys arguing about?" I leaned languidly against the doorframe, my voice carrying the softness of just waking up. Two pairs of eyes stabbed over at the same time. Jiang Helen's expression was absolutely spectacular. Shock, astonishment, panic. And Song Zhaoyi, those always cold eyes stared dead at me, then slowly shifted to Shou Yao on the bed, his voice as cold as ice. "Who are you?" Shou Yao lifted her head, weeping piteously. Lord Song drank too much last night. He pulled this servant. This servant couldn't break free. Is that so?" Song Zhaoyi's look was terrifyingly sinister. "This is impossible." Seeing that the person on the bed was Shou Yao, Zhang Helen's face turned livid. He suddenly fell silent and looked at me with terror. Walked slowly to the table and poured myself a cup of tea, the jade bangle on my wrist jingling. "Shuiyan," he forced himself to stay calm and asked softly, "Where were you last night?" I met his gaze and smiled innocently. "I was in my room the whole time. But brother, didn't you say you wanted to watch the moon with me last night? Why did you get drunk first?" Song Zhaoyi keenly caught the strange look in Zhang Helen's eyes. His gaze swept back and forth between Zhang Helen and me, finally settling on my neck. There was a red mark left there by Qin Shu's. His pupils constricted sharply. Crack! A jade pendant suddenly smashed at Zhang Helen's feet, and the crisp shattering sound made Shou Yao tremble. Brother's personal jade pendant. "Zhang Helen," he said, pausing after every word. "What a good scheme you have." I lowered my head to hide my smile. Dogs biting dogs. What a great show. "No, this isn't." Zhang Helen picked up the jade pendant in a panic, then suddenly pointed at Shou Yao. "It is her. It must be this wretched maid who stole my jade pendant." Shou Yao's face turned deathly pale. "Eldest young master, you were clearly the one who told me to." "Shut up." Zhang Helen slapped her across the face, cutting off the rest of Shou Yao's words. I watched this farce coldly. In my past life, to silence her, Zhang Helen had personally forced poison down Shou Yao's throat. Watching her bite back at Zhang Helen now is actually surprisingly satisfying. Song Zhaoyi stood up leisurely, his black robe sweeping across the mess on the floor. He walked over to me, the smell of last night's alcohol still lingering on him. "Miss Zhang," he bent down to whisper in my ear, his warm breath brushing past that red mark. "I really underestimated you." I raised my eyes to meet his gaze, seeing my own composed smile in his pitch. Black pupils. "What are you saying, young Master Song?" I blinked in feigned confusion. "Shuiyin doesn't understand," he sneered, flinging his sleeves as he stormed off. Jiang Helen chased a couple of steps, then turned back and grabbed my wrist. "It was you, right? You, Shou Yao, brother." I gently pulled back my hand and smoothed the creases on his lapel for him. "You should think about how to explain to father why your personal jade pendant was in Shou Yao's bosom." Seeing his face instantly turn pale, I leaned close to his ear and said in a voice only we could hear, "Also, How are you going to explain this to your Shui? I turned to leave, but Jiang Helen grabbed me. Shuiyin brother said with a beaming smile. What is with the marks on your neck? There was a moment of silence in the room. I panicked and covered my neck, my cheeks flushing red. Last night, I was bitten by a mosquito. Jiang Helen's eyes darkened, and he was just about to ask more. Young master, the butler ran over in a sudden panic. Master Qin is here. My heart skipped a beat. Qin shoes. What is he here for? Could it be? He found out. In the front hall, Qin Shoes was clad in a crimson brocade robe, toying with a begonia earring. So it was with him. Seeing us come in, he raised his phoenix eyes slightly, smiling with a dashing and unrestrained air. I wonder if Miss Zhang recognizes this earring. I panicked for a moment, then immediately composed myself. I picked up my teacup and took a light sip. I don't recognize it. Oh, then sorry to bother you. Qin Shoes stood up dashingly, then suddenly turned back before leaving. If Miss Zhang remembers anything, he swept a pointed glance over my neck. You are welcome to come find me at the Qin residence anytime. Once that crimson figure disappeared, Jiang Helen grabbed my wrist. Sister, you really are capable. I coldly shook off his hand. What is brother talking about? I don't understand. The spring banquet in Jinling City has always been a grand event where talented scholars and beautiful ladies gather. I leaned against the vermilion lacquered pillar, watching coldly as Lin Shui approached, treading on fallen flowers. She wore a plain white gauze dress, with only a white magnolia hairpin in her hair, looking as fresh and lovely as a fairy in a painting. Shui, my brother Jiang Helen rushed over, the joy on his face impossible to hide. Even more laughable was Song Zhaoyi, that man who was always so cold and self-restrained, now actually stepped forward quickly to meet her, his eyes brimming with a tenderness I had never seen before. Men. In the previous life, when Lin Shui returned, Song Zhaoyi had already been forced to marry me. She stood outside the wedding hall, saying with misty eyes, I wish you two grow old together, then turned around and fell ill for 3 months, making Song Zhaoyi's hatred for me grow a few degrees deeper. But in this life, Shui, why are you? Song Zhaoyi reached out, wanting to rub Lin Shui's head, but she dodged it. Song Zhaoyi froze on the spot. Brother Zhaoye. Lin Shui looked at Song Zhaoyi with those affectionate eyes filled with tears. I rushed back the moment I received your letter. Song Zhaoyi frowned tightly. I never wrote. I heard as soon as I entered the city. Lin Shui interrupted him, heartbroken. That you slept with Brother Heelan's personal maid. The whole garden went into an uproar. She lowered her head, then looked up again, her tears falling and striking the hearts of every man present. I saw several young masters already unable to hold back, their eyes full of heartache. After all, she is not only the #1 beauty in Jinling, but also a talented woman famous throughout Jiangnan. Everyone has arrived. The show is... Song Zhaoyi pulled Lin Shui to the edge of the pond. Brother Zhaoye, you are hurting me. Lin Shui tried to break free from Song Zhaoyi's hand. Shui, listen to my explanation. Song Zhaoyi subconsciously let go of her hand. Lin Shui took a half step back, a movement that made Song Zhaoyi instantly freeze. She turned and threw herself into Jiang Helen's arms, weeping pitifully. Brother Helen, is everything they said true? Jiang Helen gently patted her back while casting a provocative glance at Song Zhaoyi. Meanwhile, Song Zhaoyi's face was already dark enough to drip water. What a show. I took a sip of peach blossom wine, hiding the smile at the corners of my mouth. That handwritten letter from Song Zhaoyi was a masterpiece I'd spent 3 sleepless nights imitating his handwriting to create, in my past life, to win Song Zhaoyi's favor. I copied his calligraphy for as long as half a year, full of hope that it would earn me a shred of his favor, but received only his cold words. You will never compare to Shuiyin. Did you enjoy watching this show? Qin Shu's lazy voice sounded from above my head. Then his presence enveloped me without warning. He appeared behind me before I knew it, his crimson robes grazing my wrist, his scorching breath carrying the scent of pine and wine as it brushed past my ear. I stiffened, forcing myself to remain calm, and asked with feigned confusion, "What are you talking about, Master Qin? I don't understand." Imitating Song Zhaoyi's handwriting, summoning Lin Shuyi back early. His lips almost brushed against my ear, making the white moonlight witness her lover's betrayal with her own eyes. That is really twisting the knife. My heart suddenly raced. How did he? I pondered inwardly, lowering my eyes, as a thought couldn't help but flash through my mind. Should I kill him? But then I immediately thought, his technique is really good, way better than Song Zhaoyi. I am a bit reluctant. What are you thinking? Qin Shu seemed to sense something was off with me. He suddenly gripped my chin, forcing me to look him in the eye. I slapped his hand away, a sly smile curling at the corner of my mouth, and hooked my finger at him. He leaned down, face to face with me, the tip of his nose almost touching mine, his warm breath washing over my face. "Young Master Qin, this reputation as a playboy has fooled everyone," I said provocatively. "Likewise. Outsiders all say the Zhang family's legitimate daughter is virtuous and modest, a model for all women. But seeing you today," he deliberately dragged out the last syllable, looking at me provocatively. "In my past life, it was precisely because of the words, virtuous and modest. Like a heavy shackle, they bound me my whole life. In my past life, because of these words, I endured Song Zhaoyi's silent treatment for 3 months. Because of these words, Lin Shuyi made things difficult for me in front of Song Zhaoyi every single time. Because of these 4 words, I helped Song Zhaoyi take in one concubine after another. In this life, I want to be a reckless enchantress." I raised my eyebrows. "How about it?" Before I finished speaking, he suddenly kissed me, that kiss carrying a force that allowed no resistance. I raised my hand to hit him, but he caught it firmly. That bastard. I cursed silently in my heart, glaring at him with wide eyes. But he completely ignored my anger, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly as he drove straight in, making the kiss even hotter and deeper. Furious, I didn't hesitate to bite his lip. He flinched slightly in pain but didn't pull back. Instead, he kissed me even harder. His deep eyes were filled with a teasing and doting smile, as if he were enjoying this battle with me. Gradually, I felt my breathing become rapid and difficult. At that moment, I could faintly hear Lin Shui's intermittent sobbing in my ears, as well as Zhang Helen's gentle, low voice comforting her. When the kiss ended, my legs went weak, and I collapsed into his arms. He chuckled low, his chest vibrating, but his fingers wickedly gripped my waist, keeping me from sliding down. "Want something even more exciting?" he asked against my ear, his voice low and seductive. Before I could react, I saw him flick his finger. Ebel hit Lin Shui's knee with precision. Splash! Her legs gave out, and she toppled right into the pond. "Shuyi!" Zhang Helen's expression changed instantly, and he jumped into the water without hesitation. Song Zhaoyi also rushed over like a madman, but Zhang Helen was closer. He scooped up Lin Shuyi first. Her soaked dress clung tightly to her body, fully revealing her curves. The pond was surrounded by onlookers watching the show, all buzzing with discussion. Oh my God, it was eldest young Master Jiang who held Miss Ava. Thursday this skin-to-skin contact, isn't it? Didn't they say young Master Song and Miss Ava were in love? Now there is a good show to watch. Lin Shui's face was pale, and she was trembling all over, yet she had no choice but to be carried onto the shore by Zhang Helen. Song Zhaoyi stood soaking wet on the shore, his eyes terrifyingly dark. The corner of my mouth curled up. It worked, even though I didn't plan it. The result is just as I wished. In this life, Lin Shuyi is destined to marry my brother again. The 3 of them, one hypocritical, one selfish and one vicious, are perfect for tormenting each other. I turned to look at Chinshu's, only to find him staring at me with a half-smile, his gaze terrifyingly deep. It feels like he did it on purpose. How could he know my plan? Could it be that he also experienced rebirth? My heart skipped a beat. Impossible. I suppressed the doubts in my heart, straightened my dress, and flashed him a charming smile. Young Master Chin, I am very satisfied with your technique. With that, I turned around and left, missing the dark glint that flashed in his eyes. Jiang Helen and Lin Shui's wedding was arranged hastily, yet was extremely lavish. I disguised myself as a servant boy and snuck into the wedding procession, watching Father Lin sit in the high hall with a stiff face. Every congratulation made his cheek twitch. The son-in-law he favored was originally Song Zhaoye, but now, his gaze swept over Jiang Helen in his bright red wedding robes, and ultimately turned into a sigh. No matter how down and out the Jiang family was, they were still a centuries-old noble house. The legacy of 3 prime ministers among their ancestors, the plaque bestowed by the late emperor hanging in the hall. When Song Zhaoye arrived, the hall full of guests instantly went quiet. He was dressed in plain robes, looking completely out of place amidst the blinding red everywhere. Lin Shui was being supported by the matron to cross the fire pan when she heard that Song Zhaoye had arrived. The footsteps under the veil suddenly halted. She turned back, and through the swaying beaded curtain their gazes collided. Her tears fell with a whoosh, hitting the wedding robe and spreading out. "Zhu Yai!" Song Zhaoye instinctively stepped forward, but was blocked by Jiang Helen stepping in his way. "Zhao Yi!" Jiang Helen's fingers turned white as he gripped his wine cup. "Today is my big day. Let me toast you." The guests filled the seats and craned their necks, their eyes glinting with the anticipation of a good show. I caught a glimpse of my parents' grim faces in the high seats, and had to dig my nails hard into my palm to keep from laughing out loud. "Shuiyin, you are the legitimate daughter of the Zhang family. You must be virtuous and modest." My father's words from my past life still rang in my ears. Back then, Lin Shui deliberately knocked over the ginseng soup. I stewed for him, scalding the back of my hand red and swollen, yet father blamed me. "Shui is frail. Don't hold it against her." Later, I knelt before the gates of the Jiang Manor, begging father to save me from that fire pit of the Song family. A married daughter is like spilled water. Father shut me out, refusing to see me. "Don't come back here making a disgrace of yourself." And at this moment, father stiffly accepted the congratulations, the veins on his temples throbbing violently. Jiang Helen dragged Lin Shui to perform the wedding vows with a livid face, the red silk sash pulled taut between them. "It really feels so good." I threw my head back and downed the wine in my cup, the burning thrill in my throat almost overflowing. "Lin Shui, this is just the beginning." On the wedding night, Jiang Helen beat Lin Shui. The news spread throughout the Jiang family last night. I heard the eldest young master wanted to consummate the marriage, but the young mistress resisted with her life, and even scratched the eldest young master's face. Chongshu lowered her voice, excitement glinting in her eyes. Eldest young master was furious. One slap down, and young mistress hit the corner of the bed. She is got a huge lump on her forehead. I stirred the bird's nest in my bowl leisurely, the corners of my lips curling up slightly. At the hour of Mao, Lin Shui came to serve tea, sporting a bruise on her forehead. She was dressed in bright red, but it couldn't hide her haggardness. Jiang Helen stood beside her, dark circles under his eyes and his mouth set tight. Clearly, he hadn't slept all night. "Father, mother, please have some tea." Lin Shui knelt on the cushion, offering the tea with both hands. Father took the teacup, gave a cold grunt, and didn't even spare her a glance. Mother didn't take it for the longest time. It was Jiang Helen, who felt bad for the kneeling Lin Shui and called out, "Mother." After Mother took the tea, she took a thick booklet from the nanny beside her and threw it in front of Lin Shui. Jiang Corporation Family Rules. Chapter on Women's Virtue. Now that you've married into the Jiang family, you have to follow the Jiang family's rules. Mother's tone was cold. Study this carefully. I will test you in 3 days. Lin Shui's fingertips trembled, but she had to lower her head. Yes. Lin Shui looked at me and forced a smile. Sister Shuiyin, this is a greeting gift from your sister-in-law. I reached out to take it, and the moment our fingertips touched, crash, the jade bracelet hit the ground and snapped in two. Ah, I cried out, my eyes instantly reddening. Sister-in-law, if you didn't want to give it to me, just say so. Why do this? Making everyone think I am dissatisfied with you being my sister-in-law. Lin Shui's expression changed instantly. The gazes of everyone in the hall were like knives, all piercing into Lin Shui. Her chest heaved violently, and finally unable to hold it back. She stood up abruptly. Zhang Shuiyin, you obviously did it on purpose. I shrank back a little, lowering my head and wringing my handkerchief. Sister-in-law, don't be angry, it is all my fault. I shouldn't have said it. Shu Yi! Jang Helen shouted sternly to stop, but was a step too late. Father slammed the table and stood up. Ava Corporation, is this your upbringing? Making a scene in front of your in-laws? Lin Shui's face turned deathly pale. Zhang Helen grabbed her wrist and forced her to her knees. Apologize to father right now. Mother glanced indifferently at Lin Shui and said, Copy the family rules 100 times and bring them tomorrow, before noon. It had spread throughout the Zhang family. The new young mistress was dissatisfied with the rules given by her in-laws, and embarrassed her sister-in-law in public. I heard the young mistress even called Madam harsh. It is more than that. I saw it with my own eyes. She even dared to talk back to the master. I sat in the pavilion, listening to the maids' embellished gossip, leisurely sipping my tea. In the distance, Lin Shui stood alone under the corridor, tightly clutching that book of family rules. Song Zhaoyi left. I stood on the city tower, gazing at the receding carriage, my fingernails digging into my palms. In the previous life, he was the top scholar of this examination, and the calamity of the Zhang family's extermination is fast approaching too. The manor was in an uproar every day. Lin Shui was tormented by her mother until she barely looked human. I had to go to the main courtyard to wait on them washing and dressing before dawn, be punished by kneeling if the food didn't suit their taste, and endure Jiang Helen's insults at night. Lin Shui, what are you acting all high and mighty for? That day, you were already seen naked by everyone. In less than a month? She was so thin she had lost her shape. Those eyes that once captivated every young lord in Jinling now held nothing but venomous resentment. As for me, a poetry gathering today, a flower viewing banquet tomorrow, I was living it up. Even Mother was surprised. Shuiyin, you've been looking quite radiant lately. I pursed my lips in a smile, catching a glimpse out of the corner of my eye of Lin Shui's hand, clutching her handkerchief deathly tight. Does it hurt? But this isn't even 1/10,000th of my past life. In my past life, Song Zhaoyi remained chaste for Lin Shui and never touched me after our marriage. Seeing that my belly showed no signs of movement for so long, Mother Song ridiculed me daily. A hen that won't lay eggs, occupying the main wife's seat for nothing. Driven to desperation, I had no choice but to copy Lin Shui's style. A moon, white gauze skirt, a white magnolia hairpin. I even switched the incense to the cedar scent she loved most. Carrying the ginseng soup, I gently pushed open the study door. Husband, it is getting late. Song Zhaoyi looked up, his eyes instantly turning bone, chillingly cold, a grotesque imitation. He smashed the soup bowl, and scalding soup splashed onto the back of my hand. Take it off. I froze in place. What? Take these clothes off. He stood up and closed in, his eyes full of disgust. You think you are worthy of copying her? I took a half step back, but he grabbed the front of my clothes. Rip. The gauze skirt was torn open with a slit. Song Zhaoyi. I panicked and clutched my collar. Are you crazy? I am crazy, he sneered, choking me by the neck. If you hadn't drugged and set me up, why would I have married you? And how would Shui have married that trash brother of yours? Strip! I gripped my lapels tightly, refusing to let go. But he just started tearing at them. In the end, I was kicked out of the study, wearing only plain white sleeping robes, my hairpins scattered. I walked barefoot through the long corridor. The servants hid to the side, snickering, and the old maids were even pointing fingers. Look, Madam has been kicked out again. Imitating Miss Ava's style, only to humiliate herself. The next day, the news had spread throughout all of Jinling. Madame Song is shameless, seducing her husband late at night, only to be kicked out of the room. At night, Chin Shu's climbed in through the window again, reeking of alcohol as he pinned me onto the couch. Guess who I saw at Zuishian Tower today? I pushed him away and asked nonchalantly, Who? He bit my earlobe and chuckled. That good brother of yours is having a meal with a woman at the drunken immortal tower right now. In the previous life, Zhang Helen always loved Lin Shui and never took a concubine. I lowered my head to hide the calculation in my eyes. After all, that girl was someone I had specially prepared for my brother. In every way, she bore a striking resemblance to the Lin Shui of the past. The white moonlight had finally become frost on the ground. I was happy, so I satisfied Chin Shu's by letting him be on top. After that, Chin Shu's came to my boudoir every night, sometimes bringing news, sometimes saying nothing, just pressing against me and intertwining until dawn. Zhang Shuiyin. That night he pinned my wrist, his breath scorching. When do you plan to give me a proper status? I chuckled. Never thought about it. His movements paused. If you are unwilling, I deliberately provoked him. I can find sumo. Before I could finish speaking, he had already rolled out of bed, grabbed his outer robe, and left without looking back. He was gone for half a month. I told myself I shouldn't care, but in the dead of night, whenever I heard the wind outside the window, I would subconsciously look up. Yet I never saw that familiar crimson robe again. I ruthlessly crushed that emotion. I still had more important things to do. Song Zhaoyi was about to place high in the exams, and the Zhang family's extermination was due to arrive. Lin Shui died at the same time as her previous life. Only the manner of death was different. In the last life, she died of a broken heart, holding Song Zhaoyi's hand on her deathbed and saying weakly, Brother Zhaoyi, don't blame Sister Shuiyin. But in this life, she was killed by Zhang Helen with his own hands. When the news came, I was drawing my eyebrows. Chung Shu ran in looking flustered, her face pale. Miss, the young madam has passed away. Oh, how did she die? I continued drawing my eyebrows. Today's eyebrows looked exceptionally good. They say she got into a dispute with the eldest young master and hit the corner of a table. I slowly curled the corners of my lips, just as I expected. Last night, Chin Shu sent someone to deliver a letter, saying that Lin Shui had discovered the woman Zhang Helen was keeping outside, personally led people there, and beat that girl half to death. After Zhang Helen returned to the manor, the two erupted into a fierce quarrel. Do you think you are still that high and mighty Miss Ava? Zhang Helen, how did you beg to marry me back then? If I'd known it would come to this, I shouldn't have married you. You'll never compare to Brother Zhaoyi. In the midst of the dispute, Zhang Helen shoved her down. Lin Shuyi slammed heavily against the sharp corner of the pearwood table. Blood splattered all over the floor. And my good brother didn't even spare a glance. He turned around and left. By the time the maid found her, her body was already stone cold. In the previous life, Lin Shuyi was the white moonlight in the hearts of Song Zhaoyi, and Song Helen, right up until her death. She passed away from illness. Song Zhaoyi cradled her corpse, his eyes red as he said to me, Zhang Shuiyin, you owe her for this entire life. My brother, Zhang Helen, went even crazier and beat me half to death. Zhang Shuiyin, It was you who killed her. Everyone was blaming me, but now her corpse was hastily prepared for burial, and even the mourning hall was set up half-heartedly. To the public, they claimed it was illness. After all, Lin Shui was frail and sickly to begin with, and that maid had long since gone to the Yellow Springs. Simply perfect. I stood under the veranda, taking my sweet time cracking melon seeds. News of Song Zhaoyi becoming the top scholar reached Jinling, and the Song household became as crowded as a marketplace overnight. Matchmakers practically wore down the threshold, and portraits of young ladies from various families piled up in the Song family's main hall. Mother Song smiled so much she couldn't close her mouth, telling everyone she met, "My Zhaoye has been clever since he was young. His success on the gold list now is truly a blessing from our ancestors." But I knew exactly what kind of malice lay hidden beneath that benevolent facade. In my past life, right after Song Zhaoye passed the exams with high honors, Mother Song couldn't wait to shove women into his room. She drugged Song Zhaoye, then force-fed drugs to her niece from her maiden family, that dainty Liu Ruyan, and sent her into Song Zhaoye's room. When Song Zhaoye woke up, he flew into a thunderous rage. "Mother, what is the meaning of this?" Mother Song, unhurried and calm, turned to look at me. "Shuiyin arranged it. She said she feared she couldn't serve you well enough on her own." I had 100 mouths but could not argue my innocence. Song Zhaoye gave a cold sneer and ordered someone to bring a bowl of the drug. "Since you enjoy drugging people so much, why don't you have a taste yourself?" The drug was extremely potent. My body burned all over, and I made a complete spectacle of myself, while Mother Song just stood by, smiling benevolently. "Shuiyin, a woman should value chastity and modesty above all else. With you acting so lewdly, it won't sound good if word gets out." In this life, before Song Zhaoyi had even returned home, Mother Song had already started arranging marriage proposals. I stood in the tea house opposite the Song residence, watching coldly as those matchmakers bustled in and out. "Miss, let's go back," Chongshu urged in a whisper. I chuckled softly. "What is the rush? The show is just getting started. Song Zhaoyi, aren't you the most filial son? In this life, I am definitely going to make you." Mother and son turn against each other. I ordered someone to spread the news. "The legitimate daughter of the Wang family is demure and brings luck to her husband, the perfect match for the top scholar." Sure enough, not even a day passed. Mother Song couldn't wait to hire a matchmaker and paid a visit to the Wang family with generous gifts. "Mrs. Wang, your daughter is gentle and virtuous. If she could marry into our Song family, it would surely be Zhaoyi's good fortune." Mrs. Wang grinned from ear to ear and agreed to the marriage right on the spot. Song Zhaoyi, I'd like to see how you'll live happily ever after with your beloved." 1 month later, Song Zhaoyi returned home in glory. The alleys of Jinling were empty as everyone turned out, vying to witness the top scholar's elegance. Clad in crimson official robes and riding a tall steed, he was handsome as a banished immortal. Red sleeves beckoned from every tower. Song Zhaoyi returned to the manor, only to learn that his marriage had been decided. He stood in the main hall, his face terrifyingly gloomy. "Mother, what is the meaning of this?" Mother Song smilingly handed over the horoscope card. "The Wang family girl is dignified and virtuous, a perfect match for you." "I won't marry." "Nonsense." Mother Song slammed the table and stood up. "Marriage is a major matter, decided by the orders of parents and the words of matchmakers. How can you be allowed to act so willfully?" Song Zhaoye sneered, his gaze sweeping over the room full of betrothal gifts, finally landing on Mother Song's face. "Do you think this is enough to force me to submit?" The night was heavy, and candle shadows flickered red. The window lattice made a soft sound as Qin Shu's vaulted in, his crimson robes stirring up a gentle breeze. I was facing the mirror, removing my hairpins, and the bronze glass reflected his figure leaning against the soft couch, a smile on his lips, his eyes dark and deep. "Haven't seen you for a few days. Miss Zhang seems quite at leisure." I deliberately didn't turn around, continuing to comb my long hair on my own. He chuckled low, suddenly embracing me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder, warm breath brushing past my ear. "You little heartless thing." His slender fingers gently scraped the tip of my nose, carrying a hint of helpless doting. "I really have fallen into your hands. Song Zhaoye has sent people to investigate the Wang family." He suddenly spoke, fingertips winding around a lock of my hair. "Want me to step in?" I raised a brow and shook my head. "Let him investigate. Not afraid he'll find out you are the one making trouble behind the scenes." In the mirror, my red lips hooked up slightly. "So, what if he finds out? Does he dare to break off the engagement?" The Wang family is a prominent clan in Jinling, and the eldest daughter of the main branch is the current emperor's most favored consort Shu. No matter how much Song Zhaoyi hates me, would he dare to gamble his career out of spite? Qin Shu's gaze darkened, and he suddenly turned me around, the pad of his finger rubbing my lips. "You are even more ruthless than I thought." I bit his finger. Why scared? He abruptly gripped my wrist and pinned me into the brocade quilt, his breath scorching hot. Scared? I like it even more. Deep in the night, firelight from the Jiang Manor soared to the sky. I stood in the shadows, watching coldly as the bandits smashed open the main gate, glint of blades reflecting the bloody hue, screams and cries tearing through the night sky. It is here, a different time from my previous life, yet the same slaughter. Only this time, I was prepared. I deliberately delayed for a quarter of an hour before leading my people to charge into the main courtyard. Father lay in a pool of blood, his right foot severed at the ankle, his face pale as paper. Mother was curled up in the corner, eyes vacant, mumbling, Helen, and my good brother Zhang Helen, his throat slit. Terror still frozen in his wide open eyes, the same way of dying as in the previous life. Another band of bandits kidnapped the Wang girl. Qin Shuja climbed over the wall. I vaulted onto my horse, a cold sneer curling my lips. Chase. The night wind howled, the sound of hooves like thunder. I hunched over the horse's back. The cold wind scraped my cheeks until they stung, but it couldn't keep down the memories churning in my mind. In my past life, after Song Zhaoyi passed the imperial exams with high honors, I followed him to the capital. The noble ladies in the capital all know how to ride and shoot. You can't even do that much. It is embarrassing to take you out. He stood by the edge of the riding grounds, looking on coldly as I fell from the horse's back again and again. I gritted my teeth and climbed back up. My inner thighs rubbed into a bloody mess, scabbing over only to tear open again. I rubbed thick calluses onto my legs before I finally learned to ride a horse. Qin Shu's had caught up at some point, his crimson robes looking ghostly and bewitching in the moonlight. "Did you know ahead of time that something would happen tonight?" "Just a guess." I raised my whip and sped up. Bandits love targeting wealthy households the most, don't they? He gave a low chuckle and didn't ask any more. Outside the mountain stronghold, flames shot into the sky. Government soldiers held torches, surrounding the stronghold completely. I stood in the corner, pointing at the low wall in the northeast corner. "The defense is weakest there." Qin Shu stood beside me. Hearing this, his eyes flickered slightly, but he didn't ask anything. He walked straight to the magistrate, whispered a few words, and the magistrate immediately ordered, "Attack the northeast corner." The moment the soldiers broke through the wall, the melodious sound of strings and flutes actually drifted out from inside the stronghold. A beauty in red leaned languidly on a tiger. Skin chair, her fingertips twirling a lock of the Wang girl's hair. Yo, that was fast. She was extremely beautiful, with features like a painting and skin as white as snow. A red dress made her look flamboyant and dangerous. The Wang girl knelt at her feet, trembling, and she, nonchalant, yet in total control. I stood behind the crowd, quietly watching her. So, this is the woman who has Song Zhaoyi so captivated. Sure enough, she is something else. In his past life, while Song Zhaoye was on his way to the capital for the imperial exam, he was kidnapped by bandits and taken to their stronghold. The female bandit Honggu took a fancy to him at first sight. Back then, Song Zhaoye still held Lin Shuyi in his heart, so he resisted with his life, until Lin Shuyi died. He was convinced that the Jiang family had killed her, and his hatred knew no bounds. So, he agreed to Honggu's terms. Wipe out the Jiang family for me, and I am yours to do with as you please. The night the entire Jiang family was slaughtered, he stood in a pool of blood, watching Honggu's brazen smile, and suddenly felt, in this world, no one understood him better than she did. But Honggu was a bandit after all, a wanted criminal of the imperial court. Song Zhaoyi had passed the imperial exams with honors and became an official. How could he marry a female bandit? He began to scheme. He staged an assassination attempt on Princess Fuyang, then had Honggu coincidentally come to the rescue. The grace of saving a life was enough to clear her name. That day, Honggu was dressed in plain clothes, kneeling before the throne, looking pitiful and helpless. I swear on my life that I will never get involved in banditry again. The emperor was overjoyed and pardoned her. Song Zhaoye looked at her meek and submissive appearance, suddenly recalling the night she slit a traitor's throat with a single slash, laughing wildly. Only then did he realize that the one he loved had always been that brazen Hong. But in this life, because of my scheming, Honggu appeared ahead of schedule. Song Zhaoye has already lost an arm. Let's see how he climbs to a high position in this life. Honggu broke out of jail. When the news came, I was just drinking tea, and I nearly choked upon hearing it. It seems the jail couldn't hold her. The breaking of the engagement between the Wang and Song families has caused a storm all over the city. Though the abduction of the Wang family's legitimate daughter wasn't explicitly stated, rumors have long been flying. I heard that Bandit was put up to it by top scholar Song. No wonder he was in such a hurry to call off the marriage. It is a guilty conscience. Lord Wang was so furious he publicly impeached Song Zhaoye in court. Although he didn't explicitly name him, every word was a veiled attack. No one expected that on the very afternoon Song Zhaoye broke off his engagement, he would actually come to the Jiang family's door with betrothal gifts. I sat in the main seat of the hall, coldly watching him step inside, dressed in a white long gown, his expression composed. "Shuiyin," he cupped his hands slightly, his voice cool. "I have come today to propose marriage." Every servant woman in the hall gasped. I unhurriedly set down my teacup. "Lord Song, could it be that you've forgotten? My brother's bones are not yet cold, and your sister Shuyi has also just died, yet you are in such a hurry to marry me?" His eyes darkened slightly, and his fingers dug into his palms. "Men." I slammed the table violently. "Throw these things out." The servants swarmed forward, tossing all those silks, satins, gold, silver and jewelry out the main gate. Song Zhaoyi stood where he was, his fingers clenching white inside his sleeves. "Zhang Shuiyin, you will regret this," I sneered. "Song Zhaoyi, who do you think you are? Make me regret it." Song Zhaoyi left Jinling and went to the capital to take up his post. A month later, Qin Shus and I also arrived in the capital at a leisurely pace. As Princess Fuyang's procession returned to the capital from prayer and reached the outskirts, assassins attacked from the dense forest, arrows flying straight for her carriage. In the nick of time, Qin Shus and I charged out on horseback. He swung his sword to cut down the arrows, while I yanked the princess over, narrowly avoiding a fatal blow. In my past life, Song Zhaoyi used this trick to whitewash Honggu's identity. In this life, I am going to make him taste his own medicine. The secret letter found on the assassin's corpse had handwriting identical to Song Zhaoyi's memorials. I was the one who secretly planted it. The emperor was furious and immediately ordered his arrest. But when the soldiers charged into the Song manor, the place was deserted, with only a cup of not yet cold tea left on the table. It wasn't until I got to the capital that I found out Qin Shu's was the youngest son of the General Zhengguo's estate, and the Empress's own nephew. Back then, he had beaten up the third prince on the street in the capital, so his family packed him up overnight and sent him to Jinling to lie low. Standing before the general's estate, I clenched my sleeves tightly. What was I? The legitimate daughter of a down-and-out family. How could I match the legitimate son of a military clan? Who knew that just as the calling card was handed in, thunderous firecrackers suddenly erupted inside the manor. The old general charged out with majestic strides, slapping Qin Shu's so hard he staggered 2 steps. "You stinky brat. You finally managed to scam a wife?" He turned to me, smiling with a face full of wrinkles. "Lass, don't be afraid. This scoundrel is notorious in the capital. Girls give him a wide berth whenever they see him." Madame Qin wiped her tears as she slipped a bracelet onto my wrist. "Bodhisattva be praised. This devil incarnate is finally getting married off." "Ah, Pitui. Finally someone actually wants this devil incarnate." Meme. Inside the tea house, the storyteller was narrating vividly. Young Master Qin burned down the Imperial College at 7, beat the Xiongnu envoy to tears at 10, and broke the third prince's ribs over a songstress at 15. Qin Shu suddenly kicked over the tea table. "Bullshit. It was clearly that scum harassing a girl." The guests in the hall scattered like birds and beasts. I held my forehead and finally realized it wasn't that the Qin family looked down on me. It was that, except for me, simply no one dared to marry him. Prince Yan rebelled, his troops bearing down on Rong City. The Qin family was ordered to set out, and I traveled with the army. In my previous life, Song Zhaoye had once taken me to the battlefield. On the eve of victory, I was captured by the rebels, and he personally shot an arrow through my heart. He said, "Zhang Shuiyin, as long as you are alive, I cannot marry Honggu with 10 miles of red dowry. But in this life, I will make him pay blood for blood." Scouts reported that Song Zhaoye has become an advisor to Prince Xian, and Honggu is also among the rebels. In the previous life, Song Zhaoye was the one who suppressed the rebellion, but in this life, he has become a rebel himself. Truly ridiculous. Beneath the walls of Rongsheng, the Qin army was unstoppable, and the rebels were steadily retreating. I stood atop the city wall, looking down coldly at the routed enemy. Then I saw Song Zhaoye. He was clad in blood-stained white, standing out starkly amidst the chaotic army. He looked up, his gaze locking onto me like a venomous snake, the corner of his mouth curling into a twisted smile. "Zhang Shuiyin," he shouted sharply, his voice piercing through the battlefield. "You think you've won, fool." I slowly raised the bow in my hand, nocked an arrow, drew the string just like what he did to me in my previous life. The arrow tore through the air, whistling away. Zhaoye's pupils suddenly constricted, and a look of incredulous horror surfaced on his face. It turned out that he could be afraid too. It turned out that he could feel pain too. The moment the arrowhead sank into his chest, his expression froze. Honggu rushed out from the chaotic army and caught Song Zhaoye's falling body. She looked up at me. There was no hatred in her eyes, only relief. Then she drew a dagger and stabbed it into her own heart. In the end, she still chose to follow him. But why does Song Zhaoye deserve that? What a stupid woman. Qin Shu stood by my side and silently held my hand. "It is over," he said. I gazed at the corpses beneath the city walls and suddenly smiled. Yeah, it is over. Me hatred, my obsession. All vanished into thin air with this one arrow. On the day the army returned to the capital, the first snow fell. Qin Shu's was waiting for me at the end of the long street. Behind him was the Qin family's lantern, decked gate. "Zhang Shuiyin." He smiled and reached out his hand to me. "Let's go home." I gripped his hand tightly and stepped into the swirling snow. In this life, I can finally live for myself. I didn't stay in the capital after the rebellion was quelled. I returned to Jinling with the loyalty of the Zhang family's old subordinates. In this life, I don't want to be anyone's wife. I don't want to be anyone's pawn. I want to be the master of the Zhang family, the master of myself. Within 2 years, the banners of the Zhang family's businesses were planted all across the land: silk, tea, salt, and iron. Shipping my business extends to the western regions and to the southern seas. The riding and archery skills I practiced to survive in my previous life now protect me as I cross mountains and ridges. Every year in spring and autumn, I personally escort supplies to the border pass. When the soldiers of the Qin army saw me, they all smiled and shouted, "Master Jiang." On the start of spring in the 5th year, Qin Shu's took off his armor and chased all the way to Jinling alone. He barged into my accounting room and slapped the tiger tally onto the table. "Zhang Shuiyin, I am done being a general." I clicked the abacus beads, not even lifting my head. "Oh, then what are you going to do?" He snatched my ledger away and leaned in close. "Be your husband." 3 days later, Jinling City was decorated with lanterns and festoons. It wasn't Miss Jiang marrying into a military family, but the Jiang family head marrying young General Qin. When the wedding sedan arrived at the door, the whole city came to watch the excitement. Qin Shu's, dressed all in red atop his horse, sneered at the girls throwing handkerchiefs. "What are you looking at? I am getting married. Haven't you seen that before?" He was still as unbridled as when we first met. The 2nd year, our son Anan was born. Qin Shu's was so happy he danced with joy, and he thought about the name for 3 days and 3 nights. Finally, he chose the character Yi. Another 5 years later, our merchant fleet discovered a new island overseas. A new journey is about to begin.